So this is just me. I am Coach Ebony Nicole. I've been writing for a long time now, and God said to me, help others. And so that's what I do. I've helped over 25 people become published authors thus far, and helped over 100 people start their journey to becoming published authors. I tell everyone, look, if it's in you, if God gave it to you, do it. I'm telling you, because if you don't, he's not going to let you rest. Every time you turn around, you should write a book. You should write a book. Someone else will tell you that, or he will just put it on your heart. I gave you this. I gave you this. I gave you this. And I can only assume that you all are tired of hearing, write the book, write the book, write the book, get it done, get it done. Or if you follow me on social media, I do say, get the book done, write the book anyways, do it. What are you waiting for? What's the hassle? What's the delay? No more excuses. Let's get it done. So what we are going to do today is, again, start your memoir. A memoir, in case you're not familiar, is very different from an autobiography. An autobiography starts from conception to today. Sometimes autobiographies start with the person's parents. Sometimes they'll go back that far if they are writing it, or if someone is writing it for you, they'll go back to discussing your parents all the way through to if the person is deceased, they'll talk about their death. So that's an autobiography. It's taking every moment of your life and putting it on paper and putting it into a book. Michelle Obama, her book, Becoming Becoming Michelle, is an autobiography. And memoir, which is a fraction of your life. You are taking bits and pieces of subjects of your life that you want to discuss, and that's what you're sharing. So with your memoir, you're not going from, you can go from beginning to end, but you're not telling everything. You're only mentioning certain fractions of your life that pertain to what it is you want to share. Okay. Barack Obama, his book is a memoir. It's about his 8 years in the White House. I have it on audio book, and it's about 30 plus hours. I think I'm in like hour 3 into a 30-hour auto book. Um, he did touch on aspects of his childhood growing up, but they are related to how it raised and sharpened and motivated him as a young man to become the leader of a free world that he was. So that's why he mentioned those things, but it wasn't every moment of his youth, every moment of his life. And then going into his the later chapters will be more strategic and involved in his 8 years as president. So as you are writing your memoir, there are things that you need to focus on. And this is going to make it, I'm gonna tell y'all, what I'm giving y'all is what I do and what I teach my clients and what I'm doing for my own memoir that I'm writing, called Heart Attacks Happen. You have to focus on what it is you are looking to achieve. Okay. And in order to do that, you have to know where to start. When it comes to writing your memoir, instead of going all over the place, like, okay, I'll start here, I'll start there, I'm just going to break it down to you so you have the formula that I've used and that my clients use as well. So, how do you start your memoir? You need to be choosy. You need to know what's your thread, the aftermath effect, the travelers to count, and the results of it all. So we are going to get into choosing the theme of your book. The theme is simply the subject matter you want to talk about, nothing more, nothing less. And so what I'm going to do is use my memoir, Heart Attacks Happen, as the basis of how you lay it out. What the theme is, it's the foundation of your book. It's the one thing that your book will focus on. When you know your theme, it will help you remain focused in the direction of your book. So for mine, it is all about relationships. That's it. But there's more. Basis of it is relationships. But when I go deeper into that, it's relationships with men. Go a little bit deeper than that, relationships with men that I dated. and the relationship with my physical father and my natural father. So you see how you can take one subject and you just go down a little bit more to be more specific into it, and then a little bit more specific into it so that you can narrow down the focus of your book. If I was to say my book is just all about relationships, then that means I can look at relationships with my mom, my siblings, with friends, business partners, relationships in any facet. But I'm specifically looking at relationships with men. Even relationships with men is very broad. It could be men in my family, friends that I've had. But no, I want to go a little bit deeper. It's going to be relationships with men that I've dated, and the relationship with my natural father and my spiritual father. This is where we really, really, really get into the start of your story. And this is the thread. The thread is a pivotal moment in your life that shifted everything. And this can be positive or negative, maybe even both. Okay, so I sometimes people, I had a friend, I asked him, when are you going to write your book? And he was like, well, because he's a leader, he's a natural leader. It's just in him to be a leader. And so I'm like, he was like, well, I grew up with both my parents. I didn't have a hard life. I'm like, okay, why do you think that it has to come from that aspect? It does not. Your book does not have to come from a negative standpoint. It can be positive. So I encouraged him to write a book on leadership. And this is 2 years ago. He still has not done it. But for me, when it came to my pivotal moment that started my thread, my relationships with men that I dated. It started when I was 7, when my father left our family. That was with my natural father. And then at 8, I was raped at 8 and again at 12. So these three aspects was the beginning of my relationship with men. And you're like, oh my God, coach, that's a touching subject. I know it is. That's why God gave it to me to write, because it is one of those things that sometimes we don't want to talk about. But I know that there are women who have been bound by these things for so long that it is my honor to have gotten to a place in God where I can share it. And I can only assume that you all are at a place in God where you can share your story. So when you are sitting down and you're thinking about your memoir, what it is you want to share, what's that one moment that's going to help, or that shifted everything that's related to your theme? After the start of your thread is the aftermath effect. The aftermath is looking at events and moments immediately following the beginning of your thread. What happened? And for some of us, depending on what it was or how far back you have to go in remembrance, it might take some time for you to gather everything that happened that started your thread, or after your thread started. So that would be for me and my story. After my when I was 7, 8, and 12, it was trust issues. Something recently that came up as I began to write this book, and I'm going to tell you some things that could rise up. I realized that I was suffering from abandonment issues. Never realized it, because as I was writing, I was praying because I was crying. I'm like, Lord, I survived this. Why is this still an issue for me? And he said, you are afraid that I will abandon you. And that right there changes the whole, this happened earlier this week, changed the dynamic of my relationship with Christ, because I had to now acknowledge that what kept me from getting so close to God and what kept me from getting very close to men was fear of abandonment. And so now addressing those things, I have a Christian counselor. I tell everybody I love Jesus and I need my counselor. Like she is the bomb.com. Okay. So we're talking about that. I never realized that that was something that had occurred. So trust issues, abandonment, feeling worthless, feeling like I no longer mattered. My voice was stolen from 8 and 12 being raped those two times. My voice was stolen because I didn't know how to explain or express what happened to me. So, you were 12, you could have said something. Yeah, words don't come out that easily when you face something that traumatic. So, the point is to remember at the start of your thread what happened, what came up from your life once that happened.
Mhm.
Right. So the fourth way to keep you focused as you are crafting your memoir is to count the travelers. The travelers are those who were with you as the thread formed and unraveled. They could be negative or positive. You would only want to share those people who affected the thread in a negative or positive way. So for me, it's 8 different men, including my father, that I've dealt with in my 38 years. And so those are the men that I was in relationship with and I'm going to talk about. Just them. That's it. When you are writing your memoir, and what I say to only write about people who affected it, negative or positive, is I don't want you to say, well, I went to the corner store and I ran into Susie. Susie said hi to me. And then I went to the store, got chips, and left. What's the point of Susie? What was it that she added to your life, or she had maybe in a negative way had taken away from your life? If it's not there, don't mention it. Because then what I don't want you to do is what I teach my clients, and when I read their manuscripts, what I X out a lot of stuff and they hate it. Don't give me fillers. Don't just write stuff because you don't want a small book. That bothers me when people say it. And so I want to tell you that now. Do not worry about how big your book is going to be. One, you haven't written anything. Two, what matters is the content. Content is king when you are writing a book. So just because you may have a small book doesn't mean the content that's in it isn't valuable. Okay? So make sure you are providing meat for the people. You spit out what my mentor told me to when it comes to when people want to have comments and questions and stuff like that they want to give about your life and things of that nature, or even when our bishop is speaking and she just says you take the meat and you spit out the bones. What we want to do as we write our books is to ensure that we are giving people meat. Okay, we want to give them meat, something that it can be filled on. Now, your results are what happened at the end of your thread. What happened? What Once everything came down, once the aftermath, once you identified those people who affected your thread, either positive or negative, what were the results of them being in a part of your life? And what did you learn? Everything that starts has an ending. And sometimes what did not end is your result. If you are still dealing with the effects of ABCXYZ, that's a result. Just like I said, how I was still dealing with, I didn't realize it, that abandonment was an issue that I was dealing with, but not, I didn't know I was dealing with it. If that makes sense, I didn't know that was an issue for me. So that's one of the results. So it could be your result is a positive one. I'm stronger. I'm better than I was before. I learned this. I survived that. These are some things about my life that happened, and this is the result of it all. Okay. So you want to make sure that as you are crafting your memoir, you know your theme. What's the point of it? What's your main focus about writing a story based on your life? What is the focus? Another part, the second part would be, what is your thread? What's that moment, that pivotal moment that started it all? How did you get from where you are? So what you could probably do is take where you are now and just go all the way back and pick those moments that affected that thread. Okay. And then you want to think about the aftermath. What happened immediately thereafter? What occurred in your life that shaped it and led you to where you are today? And then we have our travelers who affected our line, our thread, in a negative or positive way. We only want to talk about those people because they are the ones that truly matter. Not saying like my mom didn't matter in my relationship thread. She did. And I did talk, I did mention her about when the second rape occurred, because we had to go to court because that it had came out. So she was involved with that. But far as the actual relationship of my mom, whom I love, that's my baby, it's not going to be discussed in the book. And then the results. What was it? What's the end result that you have in your life from the start of your thread? It could be a plethora of things, but you can focus on, I would say, 1 to 2 major results that you have. 1 to 2 major results. And in that way, you're not all over the place with what occurred in your life. You are just real focused and strategic on that matter. What I want to give to you is, as you are writing your story, think about the person. I'm gonna give this to you because it's another class I'm gonna do. Think about the person that you want to read your book, and write as though you are sitting at a table with them and describing to them your story. That is referred to as an ideal reader. That is something I'm actually going to teach a class on that, but that is your ideal reader. Your ideal reader is so important. So you want to definitely make sure you think about that person. Who do you want to read your book? And then you can craft it towards that person. When you are writing your memoir, you are pretty much teaching with your life. You have life lessons that you want others to learn. And so that is what you want to keep in mind as well. Going to talk about the structure. Now, the structure of your book is what I highly recommend because it will help you craft every single chapter with ease. You don't have to worry about, okay, how would I do this? How would I start this? How would I start that? Nope. It's all going to be laid out for you, and I'll show you how. And it's really easy. I say easy, you guys. It is easy because I don't like difficult things. Anything difficult that I've learned, I've found the way to make it easy. Because life is just what it is, and if I can make it easier for others, then so be it. Let's go. So, memoir structure. 5 points. The point of it, the lesson, the summary, apply it, and optional prayer or scripture. So, when you start your chapter, what you would start off with in like your opening and then build from there is the journey point. What is it that you want to discuss in this part of your journey? So for me, I had broken my memoir down into 5 different sections. And the last section of it is called Helpful Tips to Heal and Recover. And so from that, I went in and I have these different chapters. And one of the chapters that I'm going to discuss is the relationship with my mentor. So I will talk about the journey point, how I met my mentor, what she did for me, how she served me and my journey to becoming a healed woman of God. Then the second point, what lessons do I want to share in my story, in that chapter that I'm sharing specifically? So I will talk about in that chapter about my mentor, how to find one, the benefits of a mentor, and what it is you need to bring to the table when you are looking for and talking with a mentor. Because one thing I learned is, with her being a woman of God, she could see right through me. I could say, oh, I'm fine. And she could see right through, no, you're not, what's going on? So you want someone who will really pay attention to you as you take this journey. And then the third uh, input that you would want to do for your chapter structure is the summary. So a summary is, you're just taking what you have written in your journey point and your lessons, and you're just maybe writing a paragraph, which is like 5 to 7 sentences, summarizing that chapter. So you want to summarize it, 5 to 7 sentences about what you just previously discussed. Then the fourth entry into this one chapter is how to apply it. Since we're teaching with our memoir, how can someone apply what you have just taught them? Give them steps. So you learned how to do something. Just because you learn it doesn't mean that it is now applicable to that person, but you have to show them how to apply it to their lives so that they can be successful in whatever it is you are sharing in this chapter. Then you want to also, as an added bonus, depending on what you want to what you're sharing in your book all around, you can add scriptures and or prayers at the end. If you want your readers to be able to go right into prayer, you add that. If you have some scriptures for them to reference, if you reference some scriptures in the book, have those noted and say, hey, for further for further help to guide you on your journey to healing, to guide you on your journey to financial security, these are some scriptures to help you on that, in that process. If you want to add a prayer, add that. Also, journey notes, for like a little space for note taking, you could do that as well. So that's what you would want to do for your chapter structure. The journey point, where in your journey that you're talking about, the lesson that you learned, and now that can be a natural lesson or a spiritual lesson, and or both. You want to summarize it. You want to tell your reader how to apply what you just taught. And then you want to, if you want, you would want to add in scriptures or prayers in the last of the chapter.
I can go back. So, and I like to write. Actually, writing is cathartic. It cleanses the soul when you have things on your mind.
Yes, it is. Very therapeutic.
Right. You know, there are times when I go to bed at night and I can't rest. And it's like, what's bothering me? So I get up and I'll write it. And
Yep.
when I write it out on paper and read it, that's what's bothering you. And then I chuck it, because now that I've gotten it out on paper, I don't have to think. Okay, now I know what's bothering me and I can find that solution. And I just throw it away because it's no longer a bother anymore, because I put it on paper and I've thrown it away, called like a free write to get it out your mind.
This is what I tell people. I'm so glad you said that. I teach people that when you are going through something, typically it doesn't matter what you're going through, something good, something bad, ugly, negative, positive, those are the rawest that your emotions will be. So I want to encourage you, ladies, if you are on a journey with God, He has you through some financial, like I prayed back in 2017. I said, Lord, I am financially, chronically sick in my finances. I need a healing. And it had taken Him 2 years to heal me in my finances. Unfortunately, I didn't write down everything. And I'm like, oh my God, everything He taught me. So I've been praying to get that back, because I want to write recovering from financial, recovery from chronic financial illness or something like that, because we always, the scripture says, by his stripes we are healed. Well, I take that as literally being that. If I'm sick in something, my finances, my relationships, my mind, anything, Father, I'm sick in this. I need your healing. And that's what he did. So I say that because if you find yourself going through anything, grab a notebook and write down what you're feeling, because you never know what opportunities might come from your healing that you'll be able to write a book from, speak on, and you when you write them in your raw emotions, what you want people to feel and understand, they will. So
when this is a memoir and we're talking about the things that we know, like for that we've struggled with, and people that we have potentially that we've struggled with, what is the law, or what, like, I mean, do we permission to speak about them? Like, do we have to get their written consent to use their names? Honey, I'm on the phone. I
just need some socks.
I don't have any socks up here for you. I'm so sorry, buddy. All right. I have a 6-year-old who's learning. It looks like he's about to ride a bicycle. He's learning how to ride.
okay.
So anyway, I usually lock the door. So yeah, having permission to be able to use people that you have experiences with, because I mean, if somebody's hurt you, they're probably gonna be like, no, I don't want you to, no, or you can't even reach out to them anymore, because you just don't have that relationship with them anymore.
Well, that's a good question. So there's a thin line here. You have to be careful that you're not doing defamation of character, okay? Because then someone can sue you for that. So you got to be very careful about how you present someone. If it's attacking their character in any manner, yes, it's your truth. It's what they did, but you got to be careful with it. What I do and what I'm doing with my memoir is I'm writing out every man's name accordingly. And then after I'm done with his chapter section, I'll go back and change his name.
Okay.
Something else. It might be something that I remember him for, or if he called me a nickname, or if I called him a nickname, it would be that. So you can talk about that person without saying their name, but if you choose to say their name, just know you could be that's defamation of character. I didn't do blah blah blah. Understand? So
yeah, motivation, like how many words. I know that you talked, well, don't worry about how long it is, but if we were to strive for milestones and goals and a typical size of a book, like I'm not trying to write a huge novel, and it's the first one, but and I do have 2 more questions after this one.
So that's a good question. Again, the size of your book doesn't matter. It is the content that is king, and that what we want our readers to feed off of. My daily goal is 3,000 words per day. And I tell you, editing, I'm going to editing is one of those things where my first book, I spent God is so good, because if I had my 401, I don't know how I was gonna do it. But I spent $5,000 on my first book because I know what I was doing. This is 2010, no 2012. I had no idea. Okay, I did everything everybody said to do. I had 3 different editors, and it cost me between the 3 about $2,700. Do you know the first thing that reviewers had to say?
Yeah.
The editing. The editing was the issue. They're like, the story is good, the concept, it's a love triangle. There's nothing new about a love triangle, but you had these different elements of suspense, so that worked. But your editing sucked. And I'm like, I spent $2,500 between 3 editors, and you're telling me this is the problem? It took a while to get. I had to learn how to vet editors. And it has been one of the best things that I've done. Because just because someone has an understanding, a command of the English language does not mean they can edit your book. When you are searching for an editor, make sure your editor is well versed in your genre. Not every editor can edit poetry, which does need to be edited. Okay, if you are a poet or if you know a poet, tell them to link up with an editor. It does need to be edited. When you are searching for an editor, again, make sure they're well versed in your genre. Get samples. Reach out to them. Say, hey, one thing I do teach people is when you are vetting an editor, send them 1 or 2 pages of your document and have them edit it for you and show you what they did. So like in Word, as in Google, any changes you make, you can track them. So you will want your editor to do that and then send you those track changes so you can look at their level of expertise. Hey, Bold Writer, this is your girl, Coach Ebony Nicole, and I just wanted to say thank you for allowing me the opportunity to help you begin your journey to becoming a published author. I know it was a lot of information that we had to take in today, but I am confident that you can do this work. There's nothing stopping you but you. So I encourage you, Bold Writer, to get out of your way and get your book done. Feel free to reach out to me on Instagram at Coach Ebony Nicole, via email info@ebonynicolesmith.com, or book a free 30-minute consultation at coachebonynicole.as.me/coach me. I look forward to reading your book when it is released, hopefully in 2021.